Good evening, boys and girls. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. Another treat for you tonight. This is going to be one epic football conversation. And have Arsenal really signed one? Wait, two players? There's only one person to ask. Here we go. Hello to everyone, and thanks again for joining us. Look who's back in town. You may have forgotten what he looks like, but he's back to break some necks. Mr. Super Kevin Campbell's in the house.
Broke the neck.
Reporting for duty.
I'm back. Squaddies.
I've missed you.
At ease. Hi, Soph. How are you, darling?
I'm good. I hope you had some well-earned time off, although I think Everton Football Club have kept you busy in the last 2 days, and we'll ask you about that in a little bit. But first, let's welcome our very special guest in the house. He's back for more love from the Squaddies and, of course, from everyone here at the Highbury Squad. Mr. Harry Symeou, founder of the Chronicles of a Gooner, broadcast journalist, commentator extraordinaire. Welcome back, Harry.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be back. Always great to chat with you guys.
Let's get stuck down to business real quick. I'm sure the Squaddies will want to know from you, Harry. Have you been enjoying the Euros?
The Euros has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. I'm a massive fan of football in which I have no sort of I don't care who wins. I just love that. I can sit down and enjoy every game. And yeah, you can sort of want the kind of underdogs to perform and you can sort of get behind certain teams at certain periods in the tournament, but I don't really care who wins it. So for me, it's been great fun. And the round of 16 was probably one of the best sort of groups of fixtures I've ever seen. Monday, especially. I mean, incredible, wasn't it? Brilliant.
So without Greece and Cyprus in it, are you rooting for England
this is going to be unpopular, but I don't really root for England. I've got to be honest. And the reason for that, I have to make it clear, is not political. It's not anything to do with that. It is purely because I cannot want Harry Kane to do well. I cannot want Manchester United players to perform. I cannot get behind Man City. I just can't do it. I can't make that switch from sort of being so anti them during the Premier League season to then supporting them. So
that's hilarious.
Look, I love the fact that when England are in it and the longer England are in it, there's more Euro fever in this country. And so, yeah, it's great to have them in it for longer. But I'm not going to be upset if they don't win it. I've got to be honest, because I don't want Harry Kane to win a trophy.
I have to say he was annoying me so much in that game yesterday that when he scored, I was like, Greek word I'll use, malaga, in the sense that I literally said that on malaga. Like he just showed up and then I hate that he stole the headlines from Raheem Sterling. Like the British media suck ass sometimes, Kev. You know, Raheem was the star of the show. He's been the star man. And they go on about Kane's speech.
Yeah,
Come on.
Does it surprise anybody?
No, it doesn't surprise
me. Let's be honest. It don't surprise us now. Raheem Sterling has been the star man. Saka's had his time. But, you know, it was always going to be the captain, wasn't it? It was always going to get the headlines.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, deep down, Harry loves Harry. I love you guys. All right, let's get up to the real chat in town. Okay, we want to know what's happening with the Arsenal. We're seeing Manchester United sign Jordan Sancho, Leicester City signing Patson. Oh my gosh, that was a bit of a heartbreaker for me because I've really liked watching him play, especially this last season. But, Harry, you're going to help us dissect it a little bit here because apparently we're close to deals. I haven't seen them with the shirt yet. Haven't seen them with the dodgy picture with Arteta on one side and Adu on the other. But why don't we start off with Nuno Tavares a little bit? I'm going to be honest. This is what I love about the show. Sometimes I learn new things. I haven't really seen him play very much, and I'm not too sure about him. All I know is that he loves dogs and... you know, can you give us a quick update on not a quick update, but tell us about him?
So it looks like that deal is very close to being done. The fee seems to be agreed. There's still a few little bits and pieces to be done. Mainly, I think the medical, because of the travel restrictions. I think there's a bit of a delay on that. Is it going to happen in Portugal? Is he going to come over here? How's that all going to work? I think there's probably paperwork that needs to be done in order to make all of that happen. With Nuno Tavares, I think a lot of people have kind of been debating this on Twitter today. I've seen a lot of conversations going on about it as to whether he's good enough, whether it's a good signing. The reality is whoever Arsenal were going to bring in at left back was going to come in as an understudy to Kieran Tierney, right? We all accept that. And I think what Arsenal have decided to do is rather than go for maybe a more experienced campaigner who's kind of a little bit more of a finished article, but, you know, after a couple of years doesn't really have any value and is probably going to come and sit on the bench, collect his money, step in when he needs to. I think Arsenal have looked at this and gone, well, this is what I call a low risk but potentially high reward signing. Someone like Nuno Tavares comes in £7-8 million, and if he develops and if he performs to a certain level, he either makes his sort of way into the team, or you know, you can sell him on for a fair amount of money, and that's the way Arsenal need to do business now, in my opinion. We need to get back to kind of basics in the sense of, and I know people don't like referring back to the Wenger era, but that's what he used to do, right? He used to pick out players who were a little bit under the radar, low risk in terms of what they were going to cost, but that had the potential to bring a high reward. And if you get 2 or 3 out of 5 of those right, then you're laughing. And I think this is what that signing is. I think he's a really good athlete, incredibly quick, very strong, comfortable playing as a fullback on either side, which I think would have helped in Mikel Arteta's decision here, because you look at the left back position where we need to fill, but also there's question marks about right back now with Bellerin seemingly on his way out as well. So I think that helps as well. I think he's a player that's a little bit rough around the edges, if I'm honest. He does have lapses in concentration, but for me, I think it's a smart signing, and I would rather go down this route than kind of bringing in someone for a year who's going to come and sit on the bench, demand a high wage, and we're potentially going to end up stuck with sort of further down the line. So yeah, I'm okay with this one. I think it's a good signing.
So, Kev, one of the things that we've discussed on the show is how we need some ready-made players for the Premier League, especially to give Arteta that kickstart maybe for this season. This is critical for him, as it is for any of the existing players and the new players coming in. There's not going to be a forgiving time period for him. He's not going to get that cushion from fans like he did after he won the FA Cup. Does a signing like this, Harry mentions that he'll be an understudy, but also versatile. Are you cool with this signing? Do you feel like this is also a necessity in addition to having maybe those ready-made Premier League type players to come in as well?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think the young man has potential, and Harry's right. The upside to what makes it a really interesting signing for me. Look, the bottom line is this: we go for Premiership experienced, the fan base moan that we shouldn't be going down that route. So what route do they want to go down to get an understudy? The understudy to Kieran Tierney, who is one of the best left backs in the country, in the Premier League. So what do? We need somebody who is young enough to be able to develop. That's what we got to do. We got to develop him, and hopefully he will get his minutes, he will get opportunities, etc., to develop, and we could get that upside to what he brings to the table.
Yeah. I mean, who's to say? I mean, every signing is a risk. And at the end of the day, you know, he is the type of player that, from what I can't remember. I think it's him, not Lokonga, but United, and there was an Italian, Napoli, I think, were interested in him for a little bit. Harry, is that right? Or
Napoli and Lazio are said to have had an interest in him. And I think as well, you know, you got to look at the kind of the profile of the player. I think the athleticism that this guy has shown is what makes him stand out. And I think, you know, with the other bits and pieces, you can work on them, you can develop them. I think athleticism, though, and to have that engine to go up and down. Yeah, of course, you can improve your fitness, but I think you either have that or you don't. And I think this kind of signing is okay as long as it's in addition to other signings, and it will be. I'm pretty confident it will be. So it's not one to kind of lose your mind over. He's coming in knowing he's going to be second fiddle to Kieran Tierney. His opportunities will come, I'm sure. We know that Kieran Tierney, breaks down quite frequently, and he may even get opportunities on the other flank as well. So I'm not sort of against this one in any way. I can't understand the negativity.
So, Harry, let's say Tierney does break down, and we've seen that since he's joined us from Celtic, and nobody wants to see Kieran breaking down because the impact he has when he plays for the team is incredible, not only in terms of his talent, but his leadership skills. So what have you seen because there's no doubt he's going to play. He'll have to play at some point. And even though we don't have Europe, we're going to still have a League Cup team, maybe even a little bit of an FA Cup team at the beginning, and that focus on the Premier League. What does he give? What confidence does he instill in you that if he's called upon, he's going to have, he's going to be able to step in? Because one of the things that a few of the gang in the chat are asking now, and a couple of things I've read, is the maturity level. And a lot of people bring up the video with the dog and stuff like that. It's like, okay, the guy's a dog lover. I mean, I don't know if people are accusing the kid of bestiality here or whatever it is.
Play then, can he, if he likes dogs?
But jokes aside, Harry, he's 21 years old, right? So what makes you think he can step in? Let's say Tierney's out for 3 or 4 weeks.
I think it's important. I think it's important to know that Kieran Tierney's shoes are incredibly difficult to fill. And you're not getting a player on the same level as Kieran Tierney. I think we have to accept that, understand that. But what's interesting about the way Mikel Arteta sets his teams up is the job of the right back and the left back are not the same. And traditionally they would have been the same, but they're not under Mikel Arteta's system. Mikel Arteta's system very often shifts into a shape whereby the left back is afforded more freedom than the right back to get forward, get up the pitch and support the attack. And that person, whoever does that role, has to have an engine on him and has to have that ability to get up and down the pitch regularly. As I said, I think he's a little bit rough around the edges. I do, from what I've seen of him. But I do think that that whoever come in would have to have that engine. And that's the thing I'm most confident about Nuno Tavares. Do I doubt that he's got the stamina to get up and down and impact the game at both ends of the pitch? Absolutely not. Is he a little bit raw? Does he need to improve in certain areas and maybe be a little bit more concentrated in certain situations? That's a big criticism that the Benfica fans have of him. Maybe, but I think he's got the ingredients there to be molded into that player.
Yeah, and personality-wise, yes, Kev.
Can I just add something?
Of course.
To what Harry said. I think this is really important to understand. Harry said that the job the fullbacks have is different in Mikel Arteta's team. It is not different. The problem is we don't have anybody on the right-hand side to do what Kieran Tierney does on the left. That's why it's different. Because if you had someone who can maraud like Kieran Tierney does, that creates massive problems for the opposition. Real problems for the opposition. Why? Because, at the moment, if you set up, I'll stop Arsenal's left-hand side. That's what I'll do. And I'll let them concentrate on the right-hand side. Because why? Because they haven't got anybody who can do what Kieran Tierney does. The moment you get that on both sides, what do? Because you can't bank up on both. We were relying heavily on the left-hand side most of the time with Kieran Tierney creating the overloads on the outside. Our problem has been we can't or don't create enough overloads on the right-hand side. And when Chambers did come in kind of near the end and do okay, he was creating the overloads on the right and looked half decent. So I just had to step in on that one because any team worth their salt has to have balance. And having it on the left but not the right is imbalance.
I would argue, though, that slight bit of imbalance that you're talking about is actually what helped us become more defensively solid under Mikel Arteta, because you would have Granit Xhaka dropping into that gap where Tierney would go forward and then Partey holding the midfield. But if both your fullbacks are up all of the time, and you will be in certain games where you can do that, and it's great to have that weapon on both flanks. But I think a lot of Arsenal's right back not bombing on as much was deliberate. I think that having sort of a winger on the left-hand side who is going to keep cutting in field and creating that space for the left back was part of the game plan. And I think that imbalance that you're talking about, I agree with you. In an ideal world, you'd have two fullbacks that can do it equally. But I think there's a time and a place to do that. And I think the fact that we were sometimes a little bit more conservative on the right, actually made us more defensively solid and stopped us getting exposed as much as we did. Remember under Emery, where both used to go forward, we just kept getting picked off every time. So I think that it's deliberate. I really do.
Well, if you listen for both fullbacks to be able to do that, you need two centre halves who could defend 1v1 against the striker or 2v1 against the striker. And at the moment, we couldn't do it. Now, do we want to score goals? Or do we want to seem to be a bit more solid at the back and give up the offense? I think we want to be able to score goals and win games. If we're going to be able to do that, we've got to have a fullback who could get up there or two fullbacks who could push on. And that's where the holding midfield player and the two centre-halves are key. Hence why, I'm sure we're going to move on to it, the club are looking to pay 50 million on Ben White.
Is this the fullback position, the positions you're talking about, the strategy, the formation, the tactics, is this where modern football's going into a lot more these days? Is this how most teams are going to adapt to and play? You know, one day 4-4-2 was obsolete. No one wanted to play a 4-4-2. Then it was the 4-3-3, and then it's a 4-3-2-1, and then sometimes it's a shadow of a 4-3-2-1, and it's an X, Y, and Z. I mean, it's just like, what does Arteta really want to play? What's his strategy? Is he buying players to fit into his style, or is he buying players to fit into what works for the Premier League?
No, it's his system. He's got a system how he wants to
play.
What's
the system he wants to play? Everyone keeps telling me he wants to play a 4-3-3.
Yeah, he wants to play a 4-3. But what you got to remember is the 4-3-3 isn't doesn't stay 4-3-3. It can go 4-4-2. It could go 4-5-1 at times. It's these games are flexible. But what you need flexible players within that system to be able to do what you need them to do. Two fullback, for instance, under George Graham's teams, or what used to be, whenever the left back bombed on, the centre half would move across, the other centre half would move into the middle, and the fullback Lee Dixon would sit. So you'd have three players marshalling the back. Now you want the two fullbacks pushed further on. Sometimes you get the two holding midfielders in midfield to create a box in there. So if anybody breaks out, one of the central midfielders goes out to engage him, and then the centre halves move across. It's just the way you set up. There's different ways to set up, but you need the players in your system to be able to do it.
I was going to say
that at Arsenal,
right, and I think that's what Harry's point was at the beginning, was that he maybe wasn't. That's what he wanted to do, but he wasn't able to do it. And I think that's been a problem for Arsenal for a number of seasons now, is like we try to put square pegs in round holes, or we end up with players that just aren't talented enough to be able to do it. A few people are worried about the cheap options. I think we need to be really careful about this, guys. A few of you made the comments in the chat this evening. Harry, I don't care how much someone costs. Martinelli was 8 million euros, I believe, or pounds. I'm not quite sure which currency he was purchased in, but the point is it was the figure 8, and that's it. We've seen us pay 72 million for Pepe, and that comes with a lot of pressure. I'm not bothered about pricing. It's just about getting the right players in and gelling into the team. I'm sure you're not bothered about us going and buying a £7 million player if he's the right player.
No, I'm not bothered about that at all. I think that every fan likes a marquee signing. Every fan likes to get excited about a big money signing, and rightly so. You know, it's just one of the buzzes of football. But, as a football club, we've not been run very well in years gone by. You know, we've signed players for incredible amounts of money that haven't lived up to that price tag. And I don't see anybody sort of taking, people would moan on that side about them costing too much. So then you can't really go the other way and say that you don't want to sign the cheap options. As I said before, the signing of Nuno Tavares is someone who is going to come in and be a deputy. And we've got to be realistic about where we're at as well. You know, Arsenal would be irresponsible if they went and spent £30 million on a left back who was going to play back up to Kieran Tierney. It wouldn't make any sense. So I think that the price tag is irrelevant for me in this situation where you're adding players to the squad. As long as he's the right profile and the right player in Mikel Arteta's mind and for what he wants to do, price tag shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't.
Yeah, and I agree with Olivier here. Agreed 100% at the beginning of last year. Arteta played a style based on the players he had. He can't have that excuse next year. He needs to play Arteta's game. He has to, otherwise he's going to fail miserably, let's be honest. Okay, let's move on to anything else we need to know about Tavares. Personality-wise, he seems a little kooky, but I like kooky. What do we know about his character, his personality, Harry? Have you dug that deep yet?
Not too much. I don't know too much about his personality. I've read a couple of bits and pieces suggesting that he's a bit outspoken at times. I think that Mikel Arteta has shown that he'll take a hard line with players like that, and I don't think Mikel Arteta would be moving to sign him if he really thought that was a problem, if I'm honest. So I don't know too much about his personality. But you know, some of the greatest players in the world were a bit kooky, so yeah, it's not a bad thing.
I agree with you on the numbers, by the way. If we were signing a 30 million left back, you'd be thinking there was a problem with Kieran Tierney, and that Kieran Tierney wasn't going to be the man to start next season. There's these two as well, but before we get to the one on the right, I'm a bit naughty showing Sambi in Arsenal shirts. So I'll put the original picture up of this one. For me, I'm more excited about him maybe because I know a little more about him. Obviously, he comes highly recommended, having been associated playing for Vincent Kompany. Thierry Henry has been raving about him, but he seems to be a player that we've kept our eye on. He really came into, to fruition this season at Anderlecht. He definitely seems to be like a star. Is this another backup player, or is this someone we're really considering, Harry, being part of that partnership with Thomas Partey in midfield? What's your take on what you know about it?
This for me is a bit of a Matteo Guendouzi signing, where you're signing him with the expectation of him going on one day to be a real key part of your midfield, but he hasn't got that pressure on him, I don't think, in the club's eyes anyway, to come in and nail down that position immediately. And I don't think he should have that pressure on him. I think this is going to be in addition to another central midfield signing. But this is one I'm actually really, really excited about. I've watched a lot of sort of clips of Lokonga since we've been linked to him. And I sat down the other day and I started like making notes about like what I like about his game, what I like about his style. I don't want to compare him to Patrick Vieira because nobody can be compared to Patrick Vieira. But, you know, just the...
hold the mayo, Harry. Hold the mayo.
You know, just the way Patrick Vieira used to carry the ball, and he looked like he was doing everything in slow motion because it was so graceful, but it was actually moving really quickly and really covering ground and covering space. That's what Lokonga reminds me of. I like the range of passing that he seems to have. He looks to thread balls in behind fullbacks often. He's not always looking to just play that kind of sideways pass. I think he's one of those players that probably enjoys starting in a deeper position, but is capable of joining in the attack as well. I actually think in terms of his profile, he's a lot more similar to Thomas Partey. And I think that Arsenal are looking at him maybe as the longer term replacement to that. But I really like this guy. And you mentioned the links with Vincent Kompany and sort of, from what I've heard, Mikel Arteta has been given sort of access to reports and statistics and stuff that you wouldn't normally get when looking at a player from another club because of his relationship with Vincent Kompany and because of his relationship with Roberto Martinez, the Belgian manager as well. So there's been a lot of lot of research gone into this one. The only one slight bit of doubt, and maybe it shouldn't be a doubt, maybe this is just me being paranoid as an Arsenal fan, but he has had a cruciate knee ligament injury already. And that injury, that kind of injury worries me, but I don't know if that's me being an Arsenal fan, and because I've seen so many players come and just be riddled with injury. I worry about that, but that is something to note about Lokonga that I don't think has been too heavily reported.
Kev, what's your take on Lokonga? And also, does the injury part worry you? We do tend to make these kinds of mistakes, but it doesn't seem like he's that has a consistently injured player. Maybe he's had one big injury.
Injuries are part and parcel of the game. You can't not say that. I think we've seen a lot of the top players have injuries and come back and not have a problem. So I totally understand it could be a problem. But, you know, you don't sign players to to think that they're going to be injured. The young man, he's got energy. He's a dynamic player, which is what we lack in the middle of the pitch. We could potentially be losing 3 more midfielders out of the football club. So we need a raft of midfielders in there. And this young man's going to be one of them. I'm not saying he's going to start every week because, you know, we when you think about Xhaka could be gone, Guendouzi could be gone, Torreira could be gone. We've lost Ceballos to Real Madrid and Odegaard. That's 5 of our midfield. When you think about it, 5 players at the club. So we've got to replace them with somebody. He looks to be a smart signing, and the homework has been done on him. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I really like is the homework that's been done on him. But I am a bit excited about him, and I don't want to get too excited. I'm not comparing him to a player like Souček by any stretch, and he's a lot younger. But Souček kind of was so amazing for West Ham last season. This is why sometimes maybe I'm a little harsh on Declan Rice. I think he's made Declan Rice look really good at times in the season. I think Souček for me was like West Ham's player of the season, and I think Lokonga is that type of signing where in a few months' time, given the chance, and if we haven't really done the business in the transfer market to get that other player like a Basuma or whoever it is, I think he could surprise a few people. I think he could be that type of player for me, more so than Tavares. I think he'll probably get more chances. Maybe that's why I'm saying that. Yeah.
So I think Arsenal can't afford not to do the business in the transfer market.
Well, who else? I mean, Harry can help us here, but I mean, the Basuma thing seems dead. That just doesn't even seem like we're interested in him, to be honest with you.
It's not dead.
I think that's an Arsenal thing, an Arsenal fan thing versus an
Arteta.
Not dead. Do you know that for a fact, Mr. Kevin Campbell?
I'm just telling you my opinion. It's not dead.
Harry, do you think it's dead?
I don't think it's completely dead, but to my knowledge, I don't think there's been any movement on it. I don't think he's, as Fabrizio Romano would say, at the top of the list, because I just don't think that's what Arsenal are looking for in a midfielder. Rightly or wrongly, I don't think that's what Mikel Arteta is looking at. I think Mikel Arteta is looking at a bit more of a ball controller. And I'm not sure, like Basuma's a good midfield player, but I'm not sure he just fits into that bracket. I would have him, but I think that's not the route that Arsenal are looking to go down.
What about this African Cup of Nations that's coming up? That's going to be an issue for us. And then also, gosh, I hope not. But is he banking on El Neni to be like more involved next season?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one with El Neni because he's one of those players that you like him because he works hard and he tries his best and he's got the right attitude. But then you realize when he gets a run of games that he's not quite up to the level required. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, if I were Mikel Arteta now, I'd be going after Manuel Locatelli of Sassuolo. He's been really impressive at the Euros. I know that his preference is to stay in Italy. I know his preference is to join Juve, but the latest reports from Italy today are saying that Sassuolo are not willing to entertain Juve's offer at the moment, which is cash plus a player. Juve haven't got the money to lay down 40 million euros, which is the asking price for Manuel Locatelli in cash. And if I were Arsenal here, there's no guarantee you'd get him, but I would be trying. I would be testing Sassuolo's resolve. I'd be trying to tempt the player because I've said this before. We might not be able to compete with Juve on a sporting level in terms of challenging for the title the way they will next season, but we can compete with them on a financial level at the moment, especially if these rumours about Arsenal having a sort of a fair amount of money to spend this summer are accurate. Go out there, give it a go, try and push it, and try and turn Locatelli's head. There's an amount of money in the world that will make Locatelli turn away from Juve. I can tell you that.
You know, Kev, what I like about Harry and Oliver, who was on the show, Oliver Wilson there too. And I know, as we know, I don't know if you guys know, but Harry does a Serie A show as well. He knows his Italian football. He's not just talking about Locatelli because of what's happened in the Euros, by the way. I just want to make that really clear. He's been watching him for a while. I've heard you talk about him before, and Ollie was raving about him. He goes, Arsenal should go all out for Locatelli before the Euros even started. And now, Kev, we find ourselves in a situation, as we've said, the Euros kick in and prices go up. The good thing is that Xhaka's price has probably gone up a little bit too. If Arsenal can handle that, hopefully they'll do the right thing. You've been impressed. I thought Italy lacked something when they didn't start Locatelli in their last match. I think he was on the bench, and you could feel like they were lacking that fluidity and that movement. What's your take on Bissouma? Yes, but if it's not going to be him, who are the other realistic targets?
Well, listen, Locatelli's a really good player, and I think a lot of people who don't really know about him are seeing him kind of for the first time and thinking, whoa, this is a really good player. Obviously didn't play in the last game, was on the bench, and yeah, you're right, they did lack a bit of fluidity, but I think Mancini is giving everybody a go because it's different strokes for different folks at the moment. Whoever the opponent is, he changes that, player Chiesa's been, I thought Chiesa's been quality as well for them. But speaking about Locatelli at Arsenal can happen. A lot of the Italians tend to want to stay in Italy. That's the big issue. But if we put a bid in, all you could do is try.
It's important to know as well that Locatelli not starting is because of Marco Verratti, who's another top central midfielder.
I'll take him too, Harry.
Yeah, so would I.
Well, he's at PSG. He's earning a fortune.
Yeah, he is, for sure. So there's so many rumours, so many players that we've been associated with and attached to. And I was thinking, Kev, Harry can help us break it down here too a little bit, because it's the one player is Ben White, of course. And again, Arsenal fans, you crazy bastards out there, me included, is we need to spend money. And it goes back to my original question. I don't care if we spend 7 or 50, as long as it's the right player. UK players, British players, they go for much more in the marketplace. And that's just the way it is. Harry Maguire, 85 million. I mean, look what's happening with Grealish now. Even Harry Kane is going to go for an insane amount of money. Ben White, is he the right answer for us, Harry? And Kev and I were talking about whether or not if we sign him, you're not going to spend 50 million and use him at right back, which is what some people are saying. He's going to be a centre back. And does that mean it's truly the end for Saliba?
I'm a massive fan of Ben White. One of my first full-time job writing about football, I was split between covering Arsenal and Leeds. And this was when Leeds were in the Championship, so their last season. So I watched a lot of him and I watched a lot of Leeds, and I can understand why Leeds fans were truly heartbroken to see them fail in their bid to kind of bring him to the club permanently. He's a really good centre-half, and he's a really cultured centre-half. And we've seen it, over the course of Mikel Arteta's tenure, that he's very specific in the types of centre-halves that he wants. We saw Socrates not given a chance because he just wasn't that type of player. It's the same with Mavropanos as well. Another centre-half that people quite like, but he's just not that type of guy who's going to get the ball and progress it from the defence. I'm a massive fan of Ben White. I think the price that we're talking about now, and there's reports tonight that it's going to head towards £55 million. It does feel a little bit excessive. But it's that Premier League premium, isn't it? So you can't moan about wanting Premier League proven players and then moan about the Premier League premium, because that's been there for many, many years now. So yeah, I think he'll be a good sign-in. Again, we're talking about players that will not lose their value straight away, will have a longevity to what they bring to the club, and that's what Arsenal are looking at now. For Saliba, I think the decision's already probably been made on Saliba, if I'm honest. And I'm not saying I agree with it, because if I'm completely honest, I didn't watch much of him at Nice in terms of full games, saw highlights and bits and pieces like everybody else. But I think with Saliba, the fact that he's going to the Olympics now is another massive spanner in the works, because the club's official line is, yeah, we're going to bring William Saliba back in, give him a chance at pre-season. What's he going to have of pre-season? A week before and a week after the Olympics? That's not enough time to prove yourself. And so that leads me to believe that Arsenal have already decided that he's not the right man. If they're going to go and spend 55 million pounds on another right-sided centre-back, that's just the way I read it.
But Harry, it's difficult to stop a player. If a player wants to go and play for his country, it's difficult for the club to stop him doing that.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's very difficult to stop these youngsters, and because they may never get the chance again. Plus,
I'm not saying.
No, I know you're not saying that. It's just me saying that.
Yeah.
And when he does come back, if he's fit, he's ready to go because he's match hardened. He's trained all the way through. He's ready to go. I think the signing of Ben White doesn't spell the end of Saliba. I think it spells the end of Rob Holding.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Ooh, twist. 25 million for Rob Holding. I'll take it.
Yeah,
Don Rob. And I mean, look, he's that type of player though, Rob Holding, that has the experience we talk about. I mean, he's not really he's Mustafi and David Luiz have made more mistakes than Rob Holding. Yet Rob Holding gets vilified. And this is where sometimes I think we're a little bit snobby, or some fans are a bit snobby, because if Rob Holding maybe was a French player or a German player, people might think about him differently.
Yeah,
I think
he's not Soph.
No, I know, but there's a bit of a stigma attached. He's a good squad player. There's nothing wrong with having Rob Holding in the squad.
Sophie, I never said there is. I just said I think it will be spelled more as opposed to the end of Saliba. I think it will be more the end of Rob Holding. Because whether you like it or not, people tend to go with what they spend the big money on.
Kev.
So if you spend 50 on Ben White, you spent, what is it, up nearly 30 on Saliba, you spent 20 odd on Gabriel.
That's a really interesting point, though, that you make about Saliba, because I do feel there is this thing amongst the Arsenal fan base, amongst a lot of Arsenal fans, where they feel like Saliba has to play because of what he cost. And the reality is, yes, he cost a lot of money, but it was the signing was commissioned by a guy who's since been bombed out of the club for spending too much money on bang average players and making questionable deals. You know, this is not a Mikel Arteta age signing, the William Saliba one. So whilst we spent a lot of money on him and we can look at it and say, you know, that money might end up going down the pan, if you're giving your complete trust and support to this current manager, you can't force him to use Saliba ahead of others if he doesn't think he's the right fit just because of a previous mistake in what we paid for him.
Yeah, but Harry's not had a look at him. Kieran Tierney wasn't his signing. There were a few players in the squad who weren't Mikel Arteta signings. All I'm saying is the club have spent money on a player they call the next Raphael Varane in France. So if you've got him in your building, why would you ever look at him?
I have an answer. I have a theory. Harry, did you want to jump in?
I was just going to say, I don't think he's had enough of a look at him. I think that's fair. But there must have been something. There must have been something that led to Mikel Arteta making the decision that he wasn't the right player. And I don't know, you know, there was a lot of talk about his personal issues that were going on at that time. And that obviously must be difficult to deal with as a young man. And I completely appreciate that. But there must have been some trigger point that went to Mikel Arteta, this guy's not right. And I think you've seen signs of that. I think, you know, there was obviously that video that went around and, you know, that was kids being kids. I'm not even going to take too much notice of that particularly. But, you know, the fact that he went to France and then he spoke out about being left out once. Okay, you've done it now. Leave it. If you want a future at this football club, you leave it. But he done it again and again and again. And he's constantly been banging that drum, getting involved in silly games on Instagram with other players that Mikel Arteta hasn't seen eye to eye with and making silly comments on social media. That for me just shows a bit of a lack of maturity. And I think Mikel Arteta is just in a place where he's like, I ain't got time for this. I don't care how much it cost. I didn't commission that signing. You're not my player. And you've done not enough to convince me that you should be. So
I mentioned on the show, we had Elliot Smith from Arsenal Vision. That was exactly my thing. With Saliba, I don't think it's got anything to do with his footballing ability. I think it has everything to do with his character and his personality. And Arteta has come from the Pep Guardiola school of thought. And also Wenger, you know, signed these lovely players, very nice boys. That concerns me a little bit because you need a bit of shithousery in your team. I believe every team... You know, Bruno Fernandes, however you want to pronounce his name, I'm not going to try and do it the way Derek Ray does, has changed Manchester United's fortunes, one signing. But he's a talented player, but he's got so much shithousery about him. He's a little bit like, I'm going to say Dennis Bergkamp, but Dennis Bergkamp was so talented. He had shithousery in his game. The problem with Saliba, I think, and I don't know if you agree, Kev, is that he's just not a character match for Arsenal, for Arteta. He's looking as much as he is talent as he is character. And I think if he believed in Saliba's ability, every manager wants to win at the end of the day. And there's just something about Saliba that just rubs him the wrong way, or he's just not a fit character-wise.
Well, listen, it's your opinion. I can only tell you mine. I just think he went on loan for whatever happened. Look, he was never going to start last season because David Luiz was there. He'd won with David Luiz in the team. That's the way he was going. He brought Gabriel in, and they were going to be his two centre-halves to start with, or Rob Holding was in there. He just saw Saliba as someone who doesn't have the experience. Great, he sent him out and got him a half a season, and he was excellent while he was away. So hey, listen, we're gonna find out now, aren't we? This is gonna be where there's no David Luiz there. There's opportunities to get in the team. And we're going to find out if he goes on loan again, or he doesn't play. Then obviously
can't go on loan again. That would be embarrassing.
He will be sold.
For me, it depends on the loan. If you're going to loan him back to France, then that's pointless. Yeah, if you're going to loan him to a Premier League club, so you can see how he adapts to the Premier League, I'd be more interested in that. But you mentioned it, Sophie, a clash of character. Maybe a Mikel Arteta 4 or 5 years into his managerial career with a bit more experience realizes that maybe he has to kind of adapt a little bit and be able to find a way of dealing with these types of characters.
He can't right now.
Yeah, and right now he can't. I think that's part of Mikel Arteta's learning curve as well, the man management side of things, where somebody further down the progression line would realize the talent maybe outweighs the attitude problem, and I can find a way of bridging that gap and I can deal with it. Mikel Arteta, I don't think is that advanced.
Whoa, Harry.
I agree with Harry. Kevin and I argue about this all the time.
But hold on. What attitude problem?
No, well, when I say
you mentioned attitude, I just want to pull you up on that. You mentioned attitude problem. What is the attitude problem?
Maybe I worded that wrongly. What I mean is,
stick to your guns. Don't let
him. No. He's right. Maybe I should have said the kind of difference in attitudes between the two players, because there's other young players that don't do all the things that Saliba has done, and that I think washes better with a manager like Mikel Arteta. I think Arsene Wenger, for example, would have gone with what the talent is telling him rather than the kind of attitude. And the point I'm trying to make is that Mikel Arteta is more easily turned off by something like that than a more experienced manager might be, who's been there, done it, has seen this story unfold before, and feels that he can kind of tame that, if you know what I mean. There are managers who fancy themselves, Kev, you'll know, to get a maverick, someone who's a little bit off the scale a little bit, put their arm around him and control them and get them to channel that in the right way. Yeah, and I'm not sure Mikel knows he can do that yet.
Yeah, well, Harry, I think sometimes you could be looking at that, but you got to remember Saliba hasn't played, so he's inexperienced. It's different if the player is a starter, has been a starter elsewhere, and you could look at his characteristics and you think, oh, I'm not sure about him. But Saliba is a player who hasn't been a starter. He hasn't even really been in the club. It was like it was the first time. He's not started a game.
Yeah, but he's played 50 times in the French top flight.
I'm talking about Arsenal.
Complete rookie.
Arsenal.
Yeah, but
forget what he's done in France.
But there's
forget
stuff
what he's done in France. Hold on, let's forget what he's done in France.
You can't forget what he's done in France. How can you? Look what Fofana did in France. Fofana did less and was less appealing to top teams in France, and has been a star for Leicester this past season in the Premier League. And Saliba was the rockstar.
But Saliba hasn't started a game for Arsenal.
But what Saliba done in France was why we paid nearly £30 million for him.
Yes,
so it can't be irrelevant.
And he still hasn't started a game for Arsenal.
Wrong. Should have been given more of a chance.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, this is what I'm saying about Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta has gone with David Luiz. He's gone with more experience because he isn't as experienced, probably. That's fine.
I get that part, but then don't keep picking Willian, who's rubbish, absolute crap.
Let's not bring Willian into a Saliba conversation.
No, I'm bringing Willian in to give an example of Arteta's man management and how he lacks it. and that his inability to manage egos, all right, he's put his own ego above it. Now, I want a manager who's got an ego. Everyone does. You need that in order for them to succeed. How you manage your own ego is another thing. And he's not even 40 yet. I think Arteta turns 40 this year. I mean, he's so young and he's making rookie mistakes. That's the part that Arsenal fans find difficult to deal with when it comes to just send Guendouzi away, just send Saliba away, just send Maitland-Niles away, just send Ozil away, just send them all away. He doesn't try to fix it. He doesn't know. He just doesn't have that chip in him yet. And
but it boils down to where we are now, Sophie. So you could say whatever you want. I don't know. You don't know. Harry doesn't know whether Saliba's going to get a chance or not. So that's why I said before, we are going to find out now whether Mikel Arteta, because don't forget, at the back end of last season, we were finding out, we were hearing, he doesn't fancy, he doesn't fancy, what's his name? Martinelli. But he was protecting Martinelli. And now we're here with Saliba. Let's see. All we can do is see, because you don't know, Harry don't know, and I certainly don't know whether he's going to give Saliba a chance.
Well, the beauty about it is that we do a show to give an opinion. And the opinion I have of Arteta is that he's been poor at managing players, putting his arm around them to bring them on. He lacks that chip. Doesn't have it.
What about
Pepe, I think, had to grind himself for a while and figure out that he was going to lose his space to a shit Willian, and that was embarrassing for him. And so he helped him. Of course, he's helped players.
So how could you say on one part is one way and another part is
because
not?
It comes to personality. He can't deal with certain personalities. He can deal with a personality plus talent, but there's certain talent he can't deal with because of their personality.
I think it's something that he probably needs to develop on. Maybe we as fans shouldn't expect him to be the finished article as a manager who's only managed one full season. But also, I think, there are some players that he has, like Kevin mentions Pepe, and I think he has done well to kind of help Pepe turn it around. But I think when you're first coming into a football club and you're trying to change the culture, you have to make those difficult decisions to make the point. Once you've got 22 of your 25-man squad all training, acting the way you want them to, it's much easier to then dedicate a bit of time to those 2 or 3 outside of that need a little bit of work. But at the beginning, I don't think there was time and there was space in all the things he needed to do. It wasn't a priority to nurture people who just weren't in the right headspace, and that's why I think you'll probably see him develop on that later down the line, and I think he'll probably be more open to it.
The job is a lot of moving parts in that football club. We discussed it last season, Soph. There's a lot of moving parts on the inside of that football club, and there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, but there's no time to waste for Arsenal anymore. This is the problem.
16 years, so you got to give the man some time.
Well, we wasted 10, not 16.
16. We haven't won the title for 17
Well,
years.
Liverpool didn't win it for 30.
Yeah, but listen,
they won Champions Leagues.
We're Arsenal. Let's talk about us.
Yeah, but
this is 17 years.
One of the things, I'm not going to get stuck into an Arteta conversation. I refuse to. But let me tell you something. If Mikel Arteta was called Unai Emery, he wouldn't have a bloody job today being Arsenal manager. And we'll leave it at that for now. Let's move on real quick, because I said to Harry 45. We're on 48.
Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
It's
Sophie
my
time.
fault, it's my fault.
It's Kevin
cool.
time.
Honestly,
Kevin's back.
I'm not in a rush. Don't worry. It's good.
Get your questions in for Harry as well, guys. Jump in. I'll hand it over to you now. But before we do that, Harry, you and I have defended Xhaka a lot. I was talking the other day on the show about it's amazing how Pogba and Xhaka play so well for their countries. Of course, they're surrounded by, definitely for France, better players. I'm not sure you could say the same thing for Switzerland, but he's definitely surrounded in comfort. He feels loved, and there are a lot of modern day players that need to feel the love, and Xhaka certainly hasn't felt it. For me, it was great because I think he added value to his transfer. Now you've got rumours about Juventus maybe coming in for him and other teams. What's your take on Xhaka? In order to cut the cord and really reboot Arsenal under the image of Arteta, players like Xhaka for me have got to move on. I would have loved it if El Neni moved on. Chambers, all of those types. I would have even sold Aubameyang if there was someone willing to take him. Gives him more time to do more baby backflips in the pool in Mykonos. What's your take, Harry?
First of all, I'd love to go to Mykonos.
Me too. I'd love to go to Mykonos right now.
No, with Granit Xhaka, I've always sort of been beating the drum about Granit Xhaka being underappreciated at Arsenal. Is he the perfect player? No. Does he have shortcomings? Yes, he does. Is it the manager's responsibility to protect him against those shortcomings becoming a problem? And I think if you're going to select him every week and with the frequency that not just Arteta, but Emery and Wenger before him all selected him, then you've got to find a way of getting the most out of him. I think that what happens in the Swiss team is he's given, I don't want to say more responsibility, because I do think he is one of the leaders at Arsenal. I think that the opinion of Granit Xhaka that the players have and the squad seem to have is completely different to the one that the majority of the fans have. And I think in that Swiss team, what was most telling for me was at the end of the game when Jan Sommer saved the penalty from Kylian Mbappe, the first person that most players ran to was Granit Xhaka, and not Jan Sommer, because he is a leader in that side. He's very well loved, very appreciated. You could see his relationship with the manager was incredibly strong as well. I thought that Granit Xhaka was showing his passing range in that game against France in particular, but he also covered defensive spaces really, really well. The myth about Granit Xhaka not being capable or not wanting to play forward passes was completely dispelled in that game of football as well. And I was actually really glad for him to see him have a good game, to see him get the praise that he deserves. And to give you an idea of how much he's become a bit of a sort of fun figure in the UK. I mean, I love Clive Tilsley and Ali McCoist on commentary. I think they're brilliant. Ali McCoist, he must have said in the second half of that game, Granit Xhaka's been brilliant with a surprised tone to his voice 7 or 8 times, because that's the vibe that we give out to the rest of the footballing world about Granit Xhaka. These people don't watch him every week, but it's become fashionable to think he's terrible. Is he perfect? No, but he's not terrible. And, I think actually selling a player of Granit Xhaka's level at the point he is at in his career for the price that we're talking about right now is terrible business, because you're going to need double that to replace him. Double that. And that's not an exaggeration. You're going to need 35 to 40 million pounds to replace Granit Xhaka in that midfield. And you're talking about selling him for half of that. And that just doesn't make sense to me.
That's the part that I agree with, Kev, is the valuation, like the 12 to 15 that they were talking about. I think when we had a discussion, we felt 2025 was a fair price for someone like Xhaka. And be careful what you wish for, Arsenal fans. And I know that I've defended him maybe to my detriment at times, but when you have a team that lacks leaders, and you see, even if you follow Xhaka on Instagram, I tell you, I've been watching this just to see how other players respond to players in the tournament. And Granit Xhaka's Instagram clearly blew up by people being happy for him, congratulating him. And like Harry said, the way his teammates were running to him. And in that huddle where he was holding the Coca-Cola bottle and giving it some.
Product placement at its best.
And I've always believed that other than that incident, he still would have been Arsenal captain. There'd be no Aubameyang. There'd be no Lacazette as captains. Xhaka would be the captain. And I think the leadership kind of house of cards fell for Arsenal that night, because from that night on, it's never been the same in terms of who's captain, having a proper leader and a figurehead, Kevin. And Xhaka, as much as he's flawed, he's definitely been that. So Arsenal need to make sure that when they do bring in certain players, they're bringing in leaders as well, because we don't have any other than Kieran Tierney and a couple of kids.
Listen, I think in modern day football, the leadership one is lost a lot of the time, because we want to be competitive. We've seen Granit Xhaka have good games. We've seen him have bad games at Arsenal. And I think the Premier League is different to international football as well. I've never seen Granit Xhaka play so many forward passes, which is brilliant. But listen, fair play to him. He's had a decent tournament. He had a really good game against France. But in the Premier League, we need something different. We need extra energy in that middle of the park, and define leadership in the middle of the park. Is it somebody that really does their job? Is it someone that adds extra legs in there, combative, etc.? I think in modern day football, it's a lot different to how it was back in the day, where you've got certain players who you can rely on. I just think the Granit Xhaka era has finished, and Mikel Arteta needs to find another way.
I don't even know if it's an era. I think it's a chapter, not an era.
Well, the era, 5 years is enough. I think he's been at the club. And is he a good player? He is a good player. But we haven't really progressed with him in the team, if we're honest. We haven't.
Well, we haven't progressed with a lot of players in the team.
No, but we're only talking about him as a midfielder. We haven't progressed. Of course, you've got to lump everybody into the same thing, but
he's been good with Thomas Partey, though, and it's the first time he's really had a partner like that. Let's be fair.
And that's the reason why this thing needs to move forward, because look at the season we had last season. We can't have another one of them.
Let me ask you guys this one. It's coming in from quite a few for both of you. Sabitzer and also Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez is a player we were linked with probably when Portugal won the Euros. Everyone got really excited about him. His form and career took a bit of a dip. He's reinvented himself in France, of course. Harry, I'll start with you. What's your take on someone like him? And then Sabitzer's had a great tournament as well. What's your take on both of those players?
Big fan of Renato Sanchez, player who sort of threatened to go on and become one of the best in world football in his sort of younger days. I say his younger days. He's only 23 years old, so he fits that profile of player that I keep talking about. The player that will come in can either be someone that is in the team for the longer term, or has a sell-on value in the future, and that's smart business. I like him. You've got to caveat the fact he's been so impressive with the fact that he's been playing in France, because I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I don't think the French league is in the top 3 or 4 in Europe. I think it's probably behind the Premier League, the Italian, the Spanish, and the German. So I think you've got to take that into consideration. But he's a player who looks like he's got, and I know he didn't succeed in the Premier League last time. He was in a really poor Swansea side, but he looks like he's got the physical ability as well to kind of handle himself in the Premier League. There were players bouncing off him in the Euros when he was sort of running past them. I really like that about him. And he's also very talented with the ball at his feet as well, which, means or shows to me that he's got the potential to be a complete midfielder. And I think that's really important. I'm a massive fan of his. With Sabitzer, another player that I like as well, there were rumours that Sabitzer was going to be available sort of on the cheap this summer. And I'm wondering why nobody's really sort of bitten at that, or maybe they will before the window closes. But I'd be happy to see either of them come in, if I'm honest. I think they're both good footballers. And when you talk about Marcel Sabitzer, there was talk about 15-20 million euros being enough. This is why when people go on about the Premier League proven thing, it's, well, why are you going to go and play twice that amount for someone half as good? This is the thing. This is why people look elsewhere, because there's better value. And the COVID pandemic has had an even bigger impact on those clubs overseas, for whom the TV money is nowhere near as significant. And for that reason, I think you could find better value on the continent, and that's where I'd be looking.
Yeah. Kev, can you see? I mean, someone made a good comment about how Lille also take things in payments. I think a lot of clubs do that, and especially in today's market and world. Kev, can you?
I think Sanchez. Finish, Sophie.
No. Go ahead. No.
I just wanted to say I think Renato Sanchez. He's had to rebuild his career. He made that move, didn't he, from Benfica to Bayern Munich? Didn't work out. Ended up going to Swansea. Didn't work out. Looked a shell of a player. And had to really rebuild his contract. Seems as though he's been around for 10 years. But, he's only 23 years old. It's amazing. But seeing him come on and seeing him have the confidence to play when he's running with the ball, sometimes he's unplayable at times in that midfield. As Harry said, players are coming in trying to get the ball off it. They're bouncing off him. Powerful, strong, really, really bull. He's a bull in that midfield.
So strong.
I don't think he'll be really big money. If I'm honest with you, I think
Lille's financial situation is dire. By the way.
Yeah. So I think that could be a good one. Sabitzer, another really good player who goes. I think he goes around a lot of it unsung because he does a lot of dirty work that a lot of people don't really see, but he's always there when it matters. You see him putting his foot in. He's making a pass. He's fit. He's strong. He's not quite as strong as Sanchez now. Let's be honest, but he's a really good midfielder. Hey, we probably need 3 or 4 midfielders. We do. Get them all if you can on the cheap.
He's like a silent assassin, not in the sense like a silent assassin goal scorer. He just goes about the fit. And he does it in such an elegant way as well. I think too. Now, we like to have a little bit of fun on our show as well, Harry. And you can always, rely on the squaddies to ask something funny. Generally comes from this fella. Here's one for you. I had to ask it. Come on, it's the summer. We deserve a little bit of fun.
Don't ask me that nonsense.
No, 10K is not enough.
He should have said 100 grand. Would you do it for 100 grand?
For 100 grand, I might consider it. I might consider it. I got a daughter on the way. I'm gonna have to pay for a big fat Greek wedding at some point.
You certainly are.
I'll just start saving.
Kev wouldn't do it for
don't even ask me that.
I'm not going to ask you. There's 350 plus of you in chat. Hit that like button if you hate Tottenham. Apparently, they announced just now that they've finally got a manager. I mean, I like Nuno. I think they've ended up after all that. It's a shame they didn't end up with Scott Parker or Graham Potter.
They didn't want it. They didn't want it. None of them wanted it.
But Nuno has it. Are we worried about that? Well, I don't think so.
Well, let's be honest. I think it's taken that long for them to get a manager. I mean, I just spoke to Nuno, 3 weeks ago? So they've had to obviously eat humble pie and come back to the one manager who probably would be interested. So don't bode well for them, does it?
What's interesting as well, they've only given him a 2-year contract, which kind of says we're not sure about this. And we don't want to have to. Don't want to get stuck with a massive payout.
Yeah, totally. Tom, I like your take as well. You do it for 10,000 plus £1. It's fantastic. Never ever going to be able to live that one down, are we?
Nope.
As Arsenal fans, there were a few questions in the chat as well. I'll throw. It's moving so quickly, and my moderator is out today. Actually, I'm the moderator. That wasn't even funny. I'm on what do you call it? Aubameyang and Lacazette. Sorry. What is your take quickly, Harry, on Aubameyang and Lacazette for next season? They're promoting him like hell on his holiday, and clearly he's staying. And I think it's a whole PR thing for us to really, welcome him back with open arms and hope that he can bang in 22 goals this season. What's your take on Aubameyang and Lacazette?
I don't think that's really a priority area in terms of improving the team. I know Aubameyang received a lot of criticism. I criticised him quite a bit last season because I thought, based on the standards he set himself in the past, that he just at times didn't give enough to the team outside of just scoring goals. And that frustrated me a little bit. But I mean, between him and Lacazette, you're still talking about over 30 goals. So I'm not, if we're not going to go, if we can't spend big on a striker this time around, and there are clearly other areas that need taking priority, then I'm okay with them staying. But if you lose one, then you have to replace. And you've tied down Balogun. Martinelli is getting more and more game time. Striker is not an area I'm massively worried about, if I'm honest. It's the least of my sort of concerns.
I hope Balogun gets a shot, and Aziz. I have a feeling Aziz will probably go out on loan. But here's one for both of you. Kev, I'll start with you on this one, Mark. And a few people have asked this one too. Why would Sterling come to Arsenal, especially after this tournament? Is that an Arteta pull?
Because Mikel Arteta gets the best out of him. And that means that probably Man City have got Grealish.
Well, Gareth Southgate's getting the best out of him right now. I mean, Arteta did nice things for him while he was at City.
Who's
for
that
sure.
Gareth Southgate who don't know what he's doing?
Well,
who shouldn't pick Sterling or or Saka?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you take Sterling though, who's sacrificed? What are you going to do?
You move Aubameyang inside and you play Sterling on the left.
What is Saka going to play?
He could play on the right or in the 10 role.
What about Pepe? Where's he going to play?
No, you could play Saka in the 10. You could play Pepe on the right.
I don't see it.
It's a squad game.
It's
a squad game.
I don't think that's realistic. Harry, do you think Sterling's is he one of those pipe dream names that's been thrown out there to get everyone excited and buy new shirts?
Maybe. I get the links with Mikel Arteta and I get that, all of that. I just, again, it's for me, when I look at this Arsenal team and what needs rebuilding, I'm trying to prioritize in my mind what I think is most urgent. And I don't think that, Pepe seems to have come good. Saka's been brilliant. You got Martinelli, I mentioned as well. He can play in any of those forward positions. Emile Smith-Rowe, if we're going to get a number 10, has shown that he can play from the left at times as well, or from the right. So I just, again, it's just not a priority for me. If you can get him, great. But would I be chasing him? I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'm going to try and summarize all of these questions for you, Harry, so we can let you go. Who have we not talked about that you think we should sign? There's some people talking about players from Austria. You're getting questions about, players we're seeing in the tournament, of course. But what would you do then, realistically?
It's hard, isn't it? Because what I'm always conscious of is, I think as fans, we hear a little rumor, we get carried away, and we assume that the club is homing in on this player, and we don't even know. And the club have probably 9 times out of 10 not even considered this player as an option. So I'm always wary of kind of going with names. But yeah, Damsgaard, as mentioned in the comments, is a player who's impressed at the tournament. But as Kevin mentioned earlier on, and it is a valid point, international football is very, very different. Sometimes you'll see players that when they pull on their country's shirt, their game goes up a level. Maybe the system they're playing in suits them a little bit more. Maybe they feel more at home. I just, I'm not one of these people that bases what I think are transfer targets on a European championships. I think you can sometimes unearth gems off the back of championships, but I also think you can get this sort of blurred kind of opinion of someone based on 3 weeks of football that isn't really accurate. So I'm not going to be drawn into names from the Euros. I can't. I can't do it. It's too reactive.
All right. So if there's one player out there you think that we're going to sign, other than the 2 that we've mentioned today that look really close, that's the most realistic, would it be Ben White, do you think?
Yeah, Ben White. I mentioned the Locatelli thing, and Kevin mentioned that big stumbling point with Italians just don't want to leave Italy, and I don't really blame them. But Locatelli for me is someone that's attainable, and if you want to aspire to be the very best, then you have to go after the very best players. And when you look at sort of how impressive Locatelli was over the course of last season, and Sassuolo in general as a team were very, very good. And there's a few players in that squad that I'm sure will be moving on this summer. I think that he's someone that we should be pursuing. And Ben White looks like it's going to be done. But I think the biggest area of concern for me is who's going to partner Thomas Partey week in, week out. And I would spend big on that position. And if you have to be a little bit more careful in the other areas, then so be it. But yeah, Ben White, Locatelli's attainable. Why not try? Try?
And ESR in that number 10 role could save us quite a few squillions as well. So yeah, that partner for Partey, if we don't do it, then we're up shit creek without a paddle. Harry Symeou, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel and podcast. You can find me on 90min.com. Write some things about Arsenal on there, and on the videos on 90min as well. And wherever else, really, I'm getting about wherever it pops out. But make sure you like the video on Highbury Squad, most importantly, more above anything, because
the likes you tell him, Harry. You tell him.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we're gonna get you back on before the season starts, so we can see where this all shakes and where it ends up.
For sure. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Harry.
Thanks, Harry.
Take care.
Take care, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
That's Harry Symeou, epic human being as well as a really good at
Knows
knowing
his
his
stuff.
football.
Knows
He
his
really
stuff.
does.
He really does. Knows his stuff.
He's so good. And I don't know if Dylan was talking about our show or Harry's, but Dylan, here we go. My uncle has been an Arsenal fan since 1976 and loves your content and says keep up the great work. Whoever that was directed at, thank you so much. Either way,
it's on the Highbury squad, so it's us.
We really like Harry, and he'll be back, and it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Kev, they can't take it anymore. What have you done? I thought we were going to reveal this for Kevin Says, but you just had to, didn't you? Show the people. Squaddies, if you left early, you're going to be sorry about this one.
This
Hit
is
that
no Laguna, top work, broke the neck and the mug and all the bits and pieces. Brilliant. He's done us a great deal, bit like that graffiti look. I love it.
Okay,
absolutely love it.
He absolutely captured it brilliantly. We promised you guys that we were going to have swag for this coming season. And what better way to start than
broke the neck?
So we are going to send out a link and you'll be able to buy the Brock the Neck t-shirts and drink from the mug.
We want photos.
And we're going to want photos because Kevin's going to definitely maybe give out a little award for who's rocking the Brock the Neck shirt. And don't use your mug for hiding whiskey at work. It's for tea and coffee. Not really. It doesn't light up. So, Kev, let's see it one more time. I love it. It's so cool. He captured it brilliantly. No Laguna. What a great job doing some stuff for us here. Brilliant. And just drink from the mug. Look, take my money. It's better than any Arsenal shirt. Don't give the Cronkies money. Give it to Kev. Give it to the squad. Give it to No Laguna.
Give it to Highbury squad. Listen, none of this is my money. It's all to do with Highbury squad. It goes into the Highbury squad pot. That's it, to be giving you guys the content. So that's what we love, guys.
Yeah, it's for fun. And we thought this would be the best one to start off with. So look out for the link. We're going to put something out on Twitter for that one. I just wanted a few minutes at the end of the show here with Super Kev. It's been a while since we've seen him. Everything good, Kev? Everything quality in your life?
Everything is good. I cannot complain. Life is good. Even the weather up here in Manchester's been all right, to be honest. So I can't complain whatsoever. And at the moment, everyone, the family's all right. The boy's back in training, he's running now, etc. So hopefully it's going to be a great season for us all.
Perfect. And my new mic should be here any day now, by the way, guys. So I don't have to hold this bugger anymore. I tell you something, my guns, though, they're looking pretty good, Kev.
They're growing.
Did you mean what if we broke the mug? Well, you have to buy another one if you...
Yeah, you broke the mug, or it's either you get some really good super glue.
They're already offering, someone said 4,000 and now Johnny Boy's saying 4,000 plus a penny. You guys are too hilarious. All right, cool. Kev, you're back tomorrow.
No Laguna, there he is, Stephen Feely. There you go. He's the man. Get that all sorted out, Steve, so we can put it on and get the squaddies all kitted out.
Yes. We need. They're gonna be bugging me now, like all the time. Where's the link?
I know.
Because Kev was supposed to wait till Friday, but you know what? When you rock a shirt like that, why wait?
Listen, it's gonna be two. It's gonna be today and Friday. I'm gonna wear it again on Friday for those who missed this. I'm gonna rock it again on Friday with the cup.
I love it. It's perfect. See, Matty K, where's the link? You guys are terrible.
That's it, Matty. Ask for it.
Look.
It now.
He's just doing it over and over again. He's spamming. Remember who I blocked last time? It was Matty. I think it was Matty, actually, by accident.
No. You don't want to get that again.
No, don't want to get that again. So we were going to have... So we're going to do a double bill today show, but that show that I said was going to be today is being moved, and I still can't tell you who or what it is.
Yeah, that's or else we have to brock the neck. You see,
exactly.
That's why I wore it as well. No,
no.
That waits because it's well worth the wait.
Tell them, Kev, it really is well worth the wait.
Well worth the wait, squad.
A couple more new announcements coming in the next couple of days. Some more of our Squaddy fan ambassadors for next season as well. And don't forget, on Monday, we have the director of King Otto coming on the show, Christopher Marks. You're not going to want to miss that. Brilliant movie. And it's going to be a really, really good show. So I'll be back tomorrow. Kev, you back tomorrow or Friday?
I'm back tomorrow. I'm back tomorrow.
Excellent. And we got Kev Says on Friday. Until then, Kev, what do you want to let the troops know?
Nothing. Be good, be happy, and be kind. Very important. And don't forget, keep asking for that link, squaddies. Squaddies!